Charlie Hurt is back with us. Charlie, you know, again, it's not a matter of anybody being to blame, even though Biden blamed essentially Donald Trump for the pandemic when he was running for president. And apparently a lot of voters bought into that notion. Clearly, it's much worse now this year in terms of deaths from COVID than it was during Trump. But the Wall Street Journal says we recount all this not to blame Mr. Biden for the COVID deaths. Right. It's that the virus is impossible for any politician to control. It's just the fact that Biden essentially used that assumption that Trump was to blame to help get elected.
It's such an important point, David, and you're exactly right. You know, there is only so much that politicians can do to control a pandemic. But the point here is it doesn't reveal Joe Biden for being a bad doctor or a bad pandemic handler or anything like that. It reveals him to be a really bad, dishonest politician who is willing to use absolutely anything, including a horrifying, deadly pandemic, in order to advance his political career. And that's what's really disgusting here.
Well, you know, you look at a recent Gallup poll. Gallup does a running track every month of how American voters declare themselves in terms of which party. The independents now are 44% of all voters. That's up from, it was 41% before. Republicans have 26, Democrats 26, but it's the independents that represent the vast plurality of voters in this country, and they have been deserting Joe Biden because of all of these broken promises and things that he has said before that turned out not to be true.
Yeah, I think a lot of these voters are waking up to realizing that the Democrat Party and Joe Biden have been abandoning them for a long time. If you told me that we were going to have a political party in this country that was anti-cop, anti-America first, pro-looting, pro-rioting, pro-getting rioters out of jail, on bail, I would have told you you're nuts. There's no way that there would ever be a party in America that supports these things. But here we are, and I think that those numbers reflect the fact that a lot of people who have been Democrat voters but are sort of kind of on the bubble there are waking up and realizing that these people, they're not about the voters. They're all about just sort of, coalescing power for themselves.
And they're not about
Washington,
capitalism, Charlie. That's the extraordinary thing. You have a president who claims he's a capitalist, and then he appoints as the woman who's going to regulate the banks somebody who wants to nationalize all the banks. That's what communist countries do.
And then they go after people like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema as if they're the ones that are the real problem in the United States Senate. But you have Bernie Sanders, who's an avowed socialist, heading the Budget Committee. That's the problem for the Democrat Party. It's not Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema.
Very quickly, Charlie, I asked the president whether or not there would be an open primary going into 2024. He said, if I decide to run, I'll get the nomination. What do you think?
I think without a doubt, he was actually very modest in his answer with you. By the way, that whole interview just reminds us of what a sharp mind this guy has. Could you imagine Joe Biden giving an interview for that long on that wide range of issues and being as sharp as President Trump was? But he was kind of modest there in that answer. Not only would Donald Trump be the nominee if he chooses to run, but whoever does get the nomination will get the nomination because Donald Trump picks that person.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much for being here, both before and after the interview.
Great
We appreciate your expertise.